Hello, Anti-Resume viewers. Today we have June Loaiza. He is the co-founder of Virology, and we are going to talk about social media, your way to a job. Now, June, with social media, how can you use that to get yourself a job?
Well, great to be here, and there's a lot of ways. Personally, I've used it to get a job at an agency earlier in 2009. And the way I did it really was I had a blog where I talked about my personal opinions about entrepreneurship and marketing, PR, things of that nature. I had a Twitter where I had the same. I built great relationships with bloggers online who were influential in certain areas. And I did a lot of video interviews like the one you're conducting right now. And I was able to talk with great people like Seth Godin and Loic Lemire. So all of these things that I did helped build me some equity online. And when I did look to find a job, the person who was the CEO of the company, of course, looked at my resume, but beyond that, he saw what I've been doing online and if I can go into the company and be an asset. And that's what he really liked. So it helped me get a job, not because it brought me the opportunity, but because it solidified my chance to get the job above everyone else who just had a resume, actually had like tangible things online.
So it's kind of an extension of yourself that, you know, aside from the one sheet, resume that you're able to give out.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I know you kind of mentioned a personal experience. Do you have a little bit more detail about that experience?
Yeah, in terms of like the interview and stuff?
Yes.
I think at that point, the interview I did talk about the people I know online, where I've written. For example, I had written for Mashable at the time. It was pretty recent, and he liked that. I think the biggest thing was that the position itself and the job was to start a company called socialmediamarketing.com. And what this company needed was somebody who had an entrepreneurial background and a social media background, so that the person going in could actually lead it, right? Build it from scratch, hire people, train people, and be able to find clients and service them in social media. Now, that's why my experience is so relevant, because the position called for someone with my experience. Now, if you want to be an investment banker, if you want to be an accountant, if you want to go, be a doctor or a lawyer, now social media may not count as much. Now, you can, refute it if I'm wrong, but from what I've seen in my really good friends and my peers from college, all of them don't use social media for anything beyond maybe talking on Facebook. So it really depends, I believe, on your career choice.
Okay. Now, with social media, do you think that is something that is going to become more and more relevant for those, investment bankers and, positions that aren't so technology-oriented, or do you think it's more of a fad that at some point it's just going to go back to the resume and these guys are going to see blogs and say, that this is great, but it's not going to help you get a job here at, TD Waterhouse?
Mm-hmm. So, I'm trying to think. When I interviewed with the Big Four accounting firms, that was probably like 3-4 years ago. At the time, I didn't have a blog, but at the same time, no one expected it. So I think the resume is to get you in the door, and then, of course, is your interviewing abilities. Now, if I came into PwC and I said, hey, I have this resume, but I also have this blog where I'm writing about accounting, then I'm sure it will give me a much better chance. Now, whether or not somebody can maintain a blog talking about accounting, that's a different thing. But I think, especially in these more traditional types of jobs, the resume will always be there. It's just to get you in the door like it's always been. But then, of course, your network, who you meet. So social media can just be used to expand your network. So in a sense, I go to a lot of, let's say I went to a lot of career centers or career events to meet with like the recruiters at PwC. In the same way, you could use social media like LinkedIn to meet with the directors of PwC directly through LinkedIn. So that would be super relevant and a great way to say, hey, I'm recruiting for your company. You've been there for 3 years. I'd love to meet for coffee to learn more about your experiences there. So that, in that sense, yeah, social media would be great to make that connection.
And kind of looking at some of the big networks, we're talking Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, MySpace, whatever else you kind of have in mind. How would you rank them in terms of usefulness for looking for a job?
I think blogs, number one, it just represents who you are. A person can Google your name and then they'll see what you're like. How would you culturally fit within the company, which is really important. Your opinions, depending on what your blog is about. If it's just super personal, maybe it wouldn't be as beneficial. Twitter, I have found that if you really put a lot of time into it and you want to make it something where you can eventually leverage for job opportunities, excellent. But the job opportunities that you're going to get are most likely in social media marketing or PR. So if you want to find a job in investment banking, that's not where you need to be. Then you need to use LinkedIn. So I think it all depends on what your career choices are. Same thing if you want to be like a lawyer. LinkedIn is great, and I think sometimes we neglect to use it as as part of social media because it's very, very professional. But being able to send like an email or direct message or join a group of financial experts, and ask them about their opinions and see if there's any job opportunities, I think that's excellent.
And kind of diving into LinkedIn, I'm glad you mentioned those things. It has so many abilities to, get connected with, relevant industries and people. And have you ever heard of any stories of anyone getting hired through LinkedIn? Because they do post jobs there, but I personally have not ever heard of anyone getting hired off LinkedIn.
I mean, I don't know if I've heard any personal stories, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you find, like, I don't know, what does it mean getting hired from LinkedIn, right? Did you ultimately like send a message and they're like, wow, this is the guy, and you get hired? I think it's more like you send a message or you find an advertisement for a job position, and that gets you in the door for an interview position, and ultimately your interview and how well they think you bring value to the company and fit with the culture is going to get you the job. So I'm 100% sure LinkedIn has helped with that. I don't have any personal experience with that, though.
So it's almost like a classified listing, like Craigslist is here, but LinkedIn can kind of raise the bar a little bit and be a little bit more trustworthy.
Yeah. Like, I've gotten clients through LinkedIn, and I'm sure if you can get clients through LinkedIn, you can get a job opportunity through LinkedIn.
What do you mean you've gotten clients off LinkedIn?
Like, you find potential clients and you message them through LinkedIn, and if they like what you have to say, then you set up like a call afterwards. So, that allows you to reach a certain professional that maybe you couldn't have reached before.
Cool. And I know you mentioned Mashable earlier. I read an article there a couple weeks ago that mentioned Facebook is becoming the new email with regards to making connections and getting in touch with people. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you think Facebook will always be, me and my friend Susie went out last night and here are the pictures, more of a social network as opposed to a business-oriented platform?
That's a good question, and personally, I would never use Facebook as a replacement to email. Now, do other people use it? I have heard it. I've heard people have been using more Facebook messaging than email, and even some people message me through Facebook, and I'm like, dude, don't message me through here if we're going to talk about this. Here's my email. Let's talk about it here. It's easier for me to search and find and attach things. Facebook, unless they greatly expand that, it's very limited, right? You can't really attach any files. You can't really, I guess you can attach links very easily, but you can't really search through it very easily. You can't really forward it very easily, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure you can forward it, but not very easily. And it's just limited. So, no, I don't think anytime soon it's going to replace email. Not at all.
Okay. And kind of wrapping up, do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to explore about social media and the job market?
Yeah, I think that, like with the example of accounting, if you have an accounting blog, it is going to help your chances. Now, whether you can write a blog, like maybe 1 post, 2 posts per week about accounting, that's a different subject. If it's something that you absolutely love and are passionate about, then yeah, look, having a blog is great and people can see it in your writing. But then again, how many people are truly passionate about their careers and or the job they want to pursue? I guess that's like another conversation. But for example, I was on a plane the other day, and the girl that I sat next to worked for one of the big four. And she was young. She was like 21 or 22. She had just graduated from college. And I saw her, like, I'm like, so I interviewed with them, but I never really, like accepted the offer because I went more on the consulting route after college. And, so I wanted to know what she was doing. And what she was doing was so boring. Like, it was like this Excel sheet, and she was like writing things on it. Not that that in itself is boring, but it just looked very dull and mundane, and I try to picture myself in that and see if I could actually do it. And no. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, so is this something you're really passionate about? And she's like, well, not necessarily. This is my paycheck. I love doing, I forget what she said. I think she was more into dance as a kid. That's what we were talking about. So she was more passionate about dance, but her paycheck is the big four. And it makes sense. A lot of people make that distinction between I'm going to have a paycheck, I'm going to have something I love, which is going to be my hobby. Because I probably won't be able to make money doing dance if I'm not the best in the world at it. Right. And that's an entirely different conversation, but so for her it would never be relevant. How would she ever use a blog for her career in accounting? No, her blog would probably be for a career in maybe dance. She starts dance and makes videos, and she's on Twitter and finds other people who love dance, and maybe, but LinkedIn would still be valuable for accounting. So, kind of rambling, but my point is, if you absolutely, absolutely love something, then you will be able to write about it passionately. But if you're not, then really, there's no way she would ever be able to start a blog to further her career in accounting, because she's just not, it would never come out in the words. It would just be kind of dull and bland, and she would lose topics to write about.
So to sum that up, use social platforms to talk about what you're really passionate about and hope to get hired in that field.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get hired in that field, awesome. And if you can, create your own business from it, awesome too.
Well, perfect. Thanks for your time, Jun, and I hope to see you on the blog again.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.